everybody wouldn't mind being seated, please. Thank you so much. How's everybody doing?
Woo!
Doing good. I got one reaction. It's been a long work day. It's Tuesday, but it still feels like Monday. I understand. Well, look, I just want to kick it off by asking you guys a simple question. It's a question I've thought about a lot being a youth pastor in different seasons of my life. But what do you guys, if you could guess, what would you say, just purely opinion, what is the most offensive word to young people today? There's a lot of ideas out there, but what would be some of the thoughts that you might have?
Lazy.
Lazy. Okay, she says lazy. That's what young people might be.
Naive.
You think young people might get offended if you call them naive? That makes sense too. Any other thoughts before I share mine? No? Okay. Just my opinion purely, but I would say that the most offensive word probably to a young person would be submit. The idea of submission really challenges that spirit in young people to chart their own path, to make their own decisions, especially today with technology. How many of us know young people being raised with cell phones in their pocket, they fact check everything.
Right.
Anything I say right now, I feel like you as millennials, even in the room, are going to pull your phone out and check a stat as soon as it leaves my lips. So young people definitely have that desire to chart their own path. And I would say underneath that offense to the word submission, actually, if you do a couple of things right, is a desire to be led. There's a big misconception about young people, and it's that they don't know how to listen, they don't know how to follow, they don't know how to be obedient because of this innate desire in them. But actually, there's three things I believe that can change the whole dynamic between you and someone younger than you. Those three things, just quickly, would be the idea of building an authentic relationship, creating powerful dynamic memories with students, and then lastly, helping them encounter God, leading them in their spirituality. So let's talk about some of those three things. The first one, building a relationship. I think this generation, more than any other, is hungry and desperate for authentic relationships. Again, we talked about this, but they were born with cell phones. We grew up in an age where your grandma had a corded phone and you could run down the hallway from the kitchen into the living room with it. If you showed that phone to a kid today, they wouldn't know what to do. We grew up in a generation where we had flip phones. I didn't get my first cell phone really until I was like 13. Headed into high school, and my freshman year was when the first iPhone came out. Think about that. That's crazy, right? 2007. That was the first real touchscreen iPhone that was available, and it was 3G. It was breakthrough technology. We couldn't believe how fast the internet was on a cell phone with 3G internet connection. But these kids are born with iPhones and iPads and all kinds of different tablets and things like that from the time they're kids. And they believe the lie that these devices help them connect with one another. In actuality, it's caused a lot of disorders, a lot of mental health. This generation is actually an anomaly in a lot of ways because of that. We don't really fully know yet what the effects on these kids is going to be when they reach a mature age of 18, 21, 25. How is a lifelong relationship with technology? How is it going to impact them into their adulthood? So for us as a generation, I believe we have a real responsibility to show them the way, to lead them in some of these things. There's an interesting study done by the University of UCLA. Just a couple of quick stats from them. Quick stat on mental health. It says an estimated 3.1 million adolescents aged 12 to 17 in the United States have at least one major depressive episode. That's a lot. It says this number represented 12.8% of the U.S. population aged 12 to 17. It also goes on to say in this study they allowed students to get a scan done on their brain, and while this scan was going on, they showed them images from their personal social media accounts, likes that these kids were getting, different things. It says that when the teens saw their own photos with a large number of likes, we saw activity across a wide variety of regions in the brain. So it's creating new neural pathways for them. They're actually learning this is the new normal for them. This is the new normal for relationships and how they should interact. And it shouldn't be so. I think some of those things are causing mental issues and depression in them. Some of the things that we can do is to build authentic relationships with these students. I think key thing is to remember names. It's little things, guys. Being an introducer, showing these students if they can connect with each other and have, a great friendship outside of social media, doing things that normal kids would do, me as their leader, I could ask them to do anything at that point, especially for guys. Once they've connected and bonded over an activity, they've got a friend to do it with, they'll do anything. The next thing is creating positive memories for students. We all have had negative experiences in life, in church, and family, and I think us as a generation, we have a great opportunity because of the things we've experienced, the negative things in church and life, to look back on our lives, and we've helped students create powerful experiences, positive experiences, where they fall in love with Jesus, they fall in love with the local church. Just really quick, I want to point out, I've through my job gotten to travel a good bit and go around the world to a few different places. I've been to, Canada, over in South Africa, one of my favorite places on the planet. I've been over to a few different places in Europe, like Ireland or England or the Netherlands, and really traveling, I've realized that young people are more alike today than they ever have been, through things like social media, Netflix, YouTube, all of these things. We all know the same people, watch the same shows, listen to the same music. So discovering that a lot of these things apply to kids all over the world. This research applies to kids all over the world, and they all need those things, real authentic relationships. The second thing was positive memories, and the last thing is showing them how to encounter God. We don't have to overcomplicate this step. I've said it in a few different ways during this talk, but I would just like to point out simple formula for you to follow in leading students. Number one is relationship, which we've talked about. Number two is intentionality. That's being intentional to create those moments that they think are worth putting on Instagram, right? That's what we've talked about. And if you can do those two things right, that leads to our third point, which is encountering God. Now, you may be in here and you would say, I don't know if I feel called to do some of these things that Will's talking about. That's not for me. I feel called to do this or that instead. There's not really a passion in my heart for the next generation. I would just like to point out one of my favorite life verses comes from Psalm 145, verse 4, and it says that one generation will declare God's mighty acts to the next. Yeah. I believe in that. I stand by that. And I would encourage you to take action in your life. You have a sphere of influence. You have young people that you can't help it. They're just, you look up and they're in the backseat of your car. They won't leave you alone. And it's because God put that call on your life, our lives as a generation, to lead and guide them through relationships, through powerful memories, and through encountering God. Yeah. Just really quick to close, I would like to ask you to ask yourselves these three questions. How can I build an authentic, life-giving relationship with students? How can I help create powerful, positive memories through our interactions? And how can I influence them to encounter God through service of others? Thank you.